visionary, an entrepreneur, a business owner. You want to make money from your passion and create the freedom that you've dreamed of. But it's slow. The income is slow, the impact is slow, and the freedom is slow. And here's the kicker. You've actually never been busier. You're working longer than ever, burning through daylight, and your family have forgotten who you are. You're tired and frustrated and you can't even sleep well at night. The business just feels so heavy, and all you ever wanted to do was just make the money you want to make doing the things that you want to do. And that's where I come in. Hi, if we haven't met yet, my name is Dr. Storme, and I'm the host of the Business Acceleration Podcast, where we shift your business from heavy to light, time poor to time abundant, and from income lack to income growth. We're going to achieve it together with my 20 years experience as a psychologist, helping people just like you to break through their barriers. And we're going to throw in a little of the woo as well. So thank you so much for pushing play today. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Acceleration Podcast. It's so lovely to have you here today. If you're somebody who's experienced anxiety in your business, then this is absolutely the episode for you, because at the end of it, I'm going to give you a 3-step process that you can use to be able to manage anxiety a little bit more powerfully and effectively while you're running your business. So I absolutely think that anxiety can be a huge advantage for you, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So if we haven't met yet, you might not know that a few years ago, I was a psychologist. I've been a psychologist for 20 years, but a few years ago, I was working in medical clinics around Victoria in Melbourne, Australia, and I wasn't charging clients for the sessions. I was getting paid through something called a Medicare rebate, which was, it's called bulk billing, and so I was just getting that sort of money from the government. And it's not much. It doesn't even cover the cost of delivering a session, which means that you have to book in a high number of clients and hope that a bunch will turn up so that you can, pay your mortgage and survive and do all those sorts of fun things. But one day, I started to feel really like this was a push for me, and it started to feel out of alignment with what I wanted to do and with where I saw my business going. And I became quite business focused. Prior to that, I always just believed that I was in private practice, and I used to call myself a private practice psychologist. And this is no offense to people who are doing that. Of course, I'm just sharing my experience and my story. But anyway, I used to think that I was doing it all then. But so you need to understand that, because the next thing was when I made this decision to become what's called a fee-paying psychologist, or, perhaps a private psychologist, it was a real game changer, and not in a good way in the beginning. So, for example, I moved out of the bulk billing medical center, and when you're working in that kind of environment, the doctors give you plenty of referrals, okay? And you pay a small percentage, usually between 20 and 30%. You pay a small percentage to the medical center to cover your rent and things like that. But you don't have to do any advertising. You do not need a website. None of that stuff's required. You don't even really need a business card if you don't want one. So it's kind of like you can just pick up your bag, get in the car, go to the medical center, do your work, pick up your bag, get in the car and go home. It's not that easy, but you know what I mean. Versus when I made this decision, I hit my limit. I've been thinking about getting out of the medical centers for a while, and it had been on my mind. And then one day something happened at that bulk billing clinic, and I just thought to myself, no, this is the sign that I need from the universe. I'm going to get out and I'm going to start my own proper, in inverted commas, private practice. And so what that meant was I had to go and sign a lease. Now, the other thing that was happening was I was a little bit nervous about doing that, because I'd never ever signed a lease before. So it was a big responsibility. And I went onto Google and I typed in, offices on the Mornington Peninsula, and I found this office, and I went and they showed me around and it seemed really beautiful, and I was like, how much is it? And so I signed on the dotted line pretty much that day, and it was all very exciting. And anyway, what happened then was I moved in. And when I moved in, this is a whole other story, but when I moved in, I realised that there was a lot that I didn't know about running what I call a proper private practice, in that I did not know you have to market it because I'd never had to do that before, and I didn't know how to market it. And I didn't know all of this stuff, okay? I didn't have policies and procedures in place. I didn't have reception. I didn't have this. I had just my experience from that other place, and I just thought I was just going to plop it all down here and it was all going to be fine. But no, now I'm not in a medical centre and I don't have bucket loads of referrals raining down on me and raining down into my inbox every single day. No, now my neighbours in the suites around me in the corridor of the building that I was in included a lawyer, an accountant, a guy who owned a tyre factory, a lady who did dog grooming, right? Just random businesses. And I knew that while I might get a little bit of business from some of those people, it was not going to be enough to sustain me. Anyway, plus it wasn't going to be enough to pay my rent because now I had all these bills that I hadn't really noticed before, because the medical centre just skims that money before they give you yours. So you never really feel like you're losing it, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I made the decision I'm going to be fee paying, and I was kind of nervous about it, to be honest, because, well, you know, I've got this money mindset that says maybe people aren't going to pay me. Maybe people are going to get really mad at me if I start charging them money and they've been getting it free. Maybe I'm going to lose referrals. Maybe some of the doctors aren't going to like me anymore and they're going to stop referring clients to me. But I had to really think about why I needed to introduce the fees. And I just anchored into that. So then I started introducing fees, and would you believe I began with $15. So that was how much it was going to cost somebody to come and see me, just $15. And I struggled even with that, but I settled on 15 in the end. And then I had to let all the referring doctors in the area know that I was now going to be charging $15 to clients to come and work with me. Well, what happened as a result of that was I was bullied by not one but two doctors who had been very big referrers. And, to this day, I keep the piece of paper that one of these doctors scribbled to me. And, it's just horrible. It says how he's going to cost me $100,000 in lost revenue by not referring to me because now I'm charging money. Who do I think I am? I must think I'm better than everybody else. Why do I think I'm better than the bulk billing psychologists? All this sort of stuff. Really nasty stuff. And anyway, and then right on the back of that, there was a phone call from another doctor, and he was saying things that were similar to this first doctor. So then it was a hard day at the office, actually. Looking back, it was horrible. And I went home and I was thinking, God, what have I done? Have I made a big mistake? And all of this sort of stuff. Anyway, and then clients started coming, and then I was having to explain to them, listen, next time you come along, there's going to be this fee. And I gave everybody lead time. Like I gave 1 month, which most people might give between 2 weeks and 4 weeks. But I gave 4 weeks notice to everybody. But still people were coming and they're like, oh, I didn't realize I had to pay. And so then, because I was already feeling uncomfortable about the money, I was saying, oh, that's all right, don't worry about paying. And then the next time somebody would say, oh, no, that's okay. No, I know I've got to give you that money today. And they would give me the money, and then I could process the rebate for them, and it was all fine. But there were always some that either got mad, got angry. One guy wanted to punch the wall. Another guy went out into reception and started swearing at me and carrying on. And So I call this the transition period, but probably this transition period went on for about a month. And it was horrible. I didn't know what was going to come through the door. I didn't know when it came time to ask people for the money, even though they already knew, and even though they'd already could sign a consent form about it, and even though we'd already had the talk about it before they had their session, there were still people who were saying, no, it's free. My doctor says it's free. I don't have to pay. You're mean. You're horrible, all of this. But what happened was I vacillated. So sometimes I was like enforcing it, and other times I wasn't. And then I thought, I need to have a cancellation fee as well, because what happens is in psychology in Australia, when somebody cancels on very short notice, like on that day or the day before perhaps, it's often not enough time to fill that gap in the diary with a new client. And so different to doctors who might double book or triple book and they can always see clients. They've got a lot of patients coming through. In psychology, it's different because we've got to give a minimum of 50 minutes usually if you're doing, extended consultations. So that's like a whole chunk of your day, nearly an hour that you're not billing, that you're not producing income, and now you're down in terms of money coming in that's going to affect your capacity to do things like pay the rent, buy a Facebook ad, print up your flyers, do anything, sort of pay your phone bill, whatever. So I thought, I've never done it before, but I'm going to start charging a cancellation fee. And I was asking around, seeing what other people were doing, and then I made a decision to try and introduce a fee that felt comfortable and right for me. So that's what I did. And then what happened was people started getting angry that I was charging cancellation fees, like clients getting mad about it. Even though, again, like I'd done all the right things and given lead time and stuff like that, but still they were angry about it. They said, well, I'm not paying it and I'm not coming back. And so now all of these things that were my fears were starting to come true. And it was really scary and it was really, really anxiety provoking. It got so bad that I got to the point some mornings where I did not want to come to work. I couldn't face being torn down by another doctor. I could not face being torn down by another client. And anyway, then what happened was over time, my little business grew and it became more than just me. I had too much work and people were paying. And then I needed more people to come and work with me. So I hired a psychologist, and then my mum, who's also a psychologist, said she would come down. So she came down and she worked with me for a day or two a week, and then hired a hypnotherapist. That was all really good, and a dietitian. So there were all of us, and then we're running out of space. And so then, and I had 2 interns as well. And we only had this one office. So I started renting out a second suite at this place, the building, and it was all going well. We're juggling the diary and trying to make sure that all of our days were not conflicting or impinging on each other's, and that we had enough buffer time to hand over the dietitian to the hypnotherapist and me to the other psych and all this sort of jazz. And then, one day some clients started saying things like, when are you guys going to get like a bigger space and everything? And then I felt some of that anxiety come up again about signing another lease, getting into another place. And I was fearful and afraid. So anyway, what did I do? I got a coach. I really liked this particular lady, and I contacted her and asked her if she was taking on anybody that I felt I needed a month worth of support. So I just wanted 4 sessions. She agreed, which was great. And together we were able to put a plan in place that would allow me to get out of where I was and get me into another place. And the other thing that I did was I let all of the clients of the practice know that this was now happening. So they all got an email, and there was stuff on Facebook saying, hey guys, we've listened, we're going to move, here you go. So what we did was 2 live videos. There were 2 places we were looking at. They're right side by side, next door to each other, both in Frankston. So we did a live video of the first place, which I really loved. It had big oak floorboards. I had these huge picture windows looking out onto trees and beautiful herringbone paving and stuff like that. It was just a beautiful architectural ceilings with all these beautiful cornices and fireplace and a massive kitchen. And I just loved it. It was more like a house than a practice. And I think that's part of why I loved it. Because I could see potential. I thought, maybe in the lounge room here we could do some group stuff. And then in the kitchen, I thought my dietitian could do her like cooking classes. And so I was really excited. So we did that video. And then we went next door and we did a live video of the second place. And the second place I was not in love with at all. It used to be a vet practice. And it had been vacant for a number of years. It was overrun. It was just ugly on the outside, not great on the inside. But I did a video nonetheless, and then I asked all of the clients to vote, and we sent out a vote through SurveyMonkey. The votes came back and everybody wanted the second building. Can you believe that? But here's why. They wanted the second building because, number one, it did not have steps, and that was really important. And number two, it had on-site wraparound parking, which was also really, really important. So parking is a premium in our area, and it's really hard to get it, especially on the freeway where I am. Anyway, so we went with the second one, and I signed a lease again, and we increased the fees, and guess what? It was all fine. It was all fine. But I had to ask myself, how was I responsible for my anxiety when I was going through those transition periods? And understanding that anxiety in a time of transition is absolutely reasonable and natural and valid and all of those sorts of things, I still had to man up and ask myself the confronting question of, what role was I playing in generating these situations that were causing me to be anxious? And it was by asking myself that hard question that then I was able to say, well, hey, you know what? You're being inconsistent here with your policies. And to be honest, that's something that's so important. You have to be very, very consistent, because otherwise you get confused, clients get confused, reception get confused, your team gets confused. And that was probably what was the master log for everything. It was just my lack of confidence in implementing policies. And I allowed myself to be pushed around by some clients. And that was my big learning. So I knew I had to, moving forward, step into my policies, which by this stage I'd done, embrace them, act them, invoke them, and understand why they were important and why I needed to have them in the first place. And it was that anchoring back into my why that really helped me move through that. So, if you call yourself an anxious person, if you say, look, I'm a private practice owner, I'm a coach, I'm an MLM, I'm a business owner, and I'm anxious, I have anxiety. This is a problem, because we don't want you identifying with anxiety. You're not anxiety, and it is not you. Anxiety is a state. It's something that you experience perhaps in response to certain triggers, in response to fear, in response to perception of risks, okay? But you yourself are not anxiety, and you yourself are not an anxious business owner, okay? You experience a state of anxiety in certain situations, and perhaps you're clear on what those situations are, or maybe you're not. Okay, but you are not anxiety. That's the first thing. The second thing is, some clients say to me, I'm never going to be any good at running my business, and I'm never going to be successful with it, Brooklyn, because of my anxiety. So here we go again. We're identifying with anxiety. It's not your anxiety. It's something you experience, but it's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. You don't have exclusive ownership of it. Okay, it's an experience that you have in response to some things that happen in your business that you're not comfortable with, that you're perceiving to be a risk. or harmful or threatening or something like that, okay? So when people say they can't run a successful business because they're anxious, I want to say that's BS. You actually need a certain level of anxiety in order to perform the best that you can perform, in order to have that successful business. There's something called a bell-shaped curve. If you haven't done maths or statistics for a little while, you can just kind of imagine a hill. And there's a tail either side of the hill, you know, the valley bit before we get the hump. Now, the first little valley bit represents low anxiety, okay? And on another axis, we would have performance. Now, if you have low anxiety, you're going to have low performance because it's kind of like you just really don't care. You're almost detached from that outcome. If we hop over to the other tail on the right-hand side of the hill, we can see again that we have low performance when we have high anxiety, okay? So that's when we are too stressed, too stuck in our fear, too stuck in our own heads to be able to act the right way in the business in order to serve our clients, get our message out, be impactful in all of the right ways. But guess what? Guess where you perform optimally? You perform optimally at the top of the hill there, okay? So when you've got moderate anxiety, you're going to have optimal performance, okay? You need to have a little bit of nerves about you because it's going to keep you alert, on the ball, on top of things. All right? It shows that you care, it shows that you're invested, but it also shows that you're in control. It's so important to have that. It's called optimal performance curve. And it's been around for a long time, but it's something that we use when we're talking to, well, you know, we do some work here with some of the athletes from the AIS, the Australian Institute of Sports, and we talk to them about optimal performance. And even for public speaking and things like that, you have to have a little bit of nerves. It helps you do better. So when you're in your business and you're experiencing a little bit of nervousness, or you're experiencing that state of heightened arousal, or you're experiencing that state of anxiety, that's okay. It's only going to be a problem if either you don't have it or you've got it excessively in that situation, all right? So the good news is, yes, you can have anxiety, you can experience anxiety, you can experience heightened arousal and perform better than your friends who don't. Now that's pretty cool, okay? All right, so I've got 3 questions, 3 steps, 3 questions that you could ask yourself when you're worrying about anxiety in your business. So the first thing is, ask yourself what it is you're really afraid of. And the reason that you do that is because we want to pinpoint things, okay? We don't want to be very general and just say, oh, I hate charging fees. We want to understand what it is that you're afraid of about charging the fees. You want to ask, how are you being responsible now for this experience of the anxiety? So in the example I gave you in my story, I was responsible because I was being wishy-washy about my fees. I was being wishy-washy about my policies because I lacked the confidence at the time. Okay, that's how I was contributing. Once I started being, well, not firm, but being consistent with everything, that's when everything changed in my business. There was a complete pivot. I got different clients coming in. There was different problems coming in. It was a different demographic coming in. And, you know, now there are no issues. So, okay. And then the third one is ask what you can do to try and change this. Okay. So are you like me? Do you need to step into your policies? Do you need to shift your mindset like I did? What is it that you need to do in order to feel stronger and more confident in this situation? Okay, so 3 questions again. Ask what you're afraid of. Ask how you're being responsible for this, and ask what you can do to change, okay, to change your situation. When you change your situation, you'll change your thought. When you change your thought, you'll change your feeling, okay? So that's your homework if you like. Have a go. Of course, email me. It's hello@brooklynstorme.com. Storm has an E on the end, so shoot me an email if you like and let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you went. And yeah, if you haven't done it already, subscribe to the podcast. We had 1,000 episodes over the weekend, which was so exciting, and I'm still celebrating from that. I don't know who it was though. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper and see if there's a way that I can find out who it was that downloaded the 1,000th episode, so that I can give them a very, very special prize, because it's something to celebrate, and I'm all about celebrating the wins. I think we are so quick to be down on ourselves when things don't work out and when we stuff up, but we often don't celebrate the wins, and this is a win that I think is worthy of celebrating. The other thing too is, if you're interested in starting a podcast, you might be very, very interested in this. Okay, so it happens in November. There's a wait list. You can jump on it if you want. But it's a podcasting course where we take your concept and we go from concept to published in 30 days. So we can get your podcast up and running, published in 30 days or even less. It's up to you how quickly you move through the modules of the course. And because it's the first time that I'm running the course, you would be a founding member, which means, of course, you get a very special rate on the course. And if you bring a friend, you and your friend are also going to get a private one-on-one podcast coaching session with me, where we're going to dive deeply into any questions or challenges or obstacles or goals that you might have with your podcast. Now, a coaching session with me is valued at $500. So, and the course is like nowhere near that. It's like $97 or something. So, if you do get on the wait list and you're bringing a friend and you both enroll, of course, please do let me know so that I can give you both that bonus. I'm so excited about it. All right, guys, I'm going to let you go now. Have a beautiful rest of the night, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, guys. Bye. Thank you so much for listening today. I really hope that you enjoyed it and got a lot of value from it. Help me help others by sharing this podcast. And if you feel called to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, remember to let me know so that I can send you a very special thank you gift. Now go and build your dream business, and I will see you next time. Bye.